Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Tim Herriage here. Thank you for stopping back by. Today is a very, very special day for me because it's my last day. So we've been working for months now for me to transition to more of a leadership-only role within RCN Capital, kind of taking the board seat, senior advisor spot, and stepping out of the day-to-day. My partner and friend Jeff and I have always known that this wasn't a career move for me, and it was more about building and creating certain things within the company and setting the company up for not setting it up because the company was already set up for it, but helping shore up some of the areas that we wanted to start the company on a trajectory of growth and scale. Part of that was the podcast, and the podcast, it was never really meant to be about me. As you can tell by the episodes, I do very little talking and just smile and introduce people. It was designed to, when Jeff first came up with it, if you heard his episode last year, the idea was at the end of every episode to give investors a way to make more money. And I feel like we've done that. I feel like we've kind of changed some of the landscape of these real estate investing podcasts. We don't talk a whole lot about RCN Capital. I mean, it's actually why I wear the logoed shirt. It's like kind of the only mention of the company other than the obligatory commercial break. But yeah, it's been fun to just be with you every week, share my friends and colleagues' stories, and really help navigate this 2-year period of insanity. Crazy interest rates, crazy inflation trends, house values in many markets that have gone down 20%. It's been a fun ride. And if you've heard my story, you know that I'm an entrepreneur and investor at heart. And I see just an amazing amount of opportunity coming our way in 2024. And I feel like the best thing for my family day in, day out is to be on the ground in Dallas, buying houses, buying multifamily property, doing some developments, investing in some more commercial property. And it's kind of funny. I don't think I've ever talked about it. I was actually the number 3 broker for RCN Capital when I joined RCN Capital. And RCN, a vast majority of our loans are done through brokers and correspondent lenders. And I am going to continue doing that. It makes me really good money and still does. It's kind of a weird thing to talk about. I've actually been a paid broker while being an employee, but also a partner. Anyway, very confusing to me. It's very confusing to everyone at RCN, but the bottom line is I'm a confusing person. I'm a real estate maverick, just like you guys. It's all about opportunity and time value of money and opportunity cost. And I've done my best over the last 2 years to travel. I was looking the other day, 180, 200 nights in a hotel room in the last 24 months. It's not who I want to be, but it's definitely what I was willing to do to kind of make my mark on the company and to create the things that Jeff and I thought we needed to create. And to put myself in a position, I'll tell you about this. In the Marine Corps, here's my bottom line up front for you. In the Marine Corps, it was always interesting. The enlisted folks were in the units for a long time. And the enlisted folks may have 10, 15, 20 years of experience. And they would bring in a new officer that was fresh out of officer candidate school, and the great officers would come in and get to know all the troops, all the leaders, everyone that had been there. And they really took their time to understand how things worked and how things functioned before they made any decisions. The really bad officers just dove in and started telling you how things were going to be, they put their foot down, so to speak. And that's what I've spent my last 2 years doing with RCN. In order to be an effective leader and advisor to the company, I had to get to know all the people in the company. I had to get to know all the customers, all the relationships, all the functions, all the offices, and really immerse myself into the business. And so the last 2 years has been a season of learning for me, a season of familiarization, of acclimatization, understanding who does what, how they do it, why they do it, what they're good at, what they're not good at, where we could do better, or even where we had already tried to do better, but maybe it didn't work, and why. And I think as you're looking at anything, any business, don't go in thinking that you know everything. I've sold several companies, and it's so amazing. The founder always ends up being the dumbest person in the room until people realize they don't know what the hell they're doing, and then they go back and get the founder to come back and save their ass. And, major kudos to Jeff and the RCN leadership that was already in place, and it's in place right now. We've known this transition was going to happen since September of 2023 now, and we really took time to put the pieces in place to make it successful, and then, to provide a path forward, not only for me with RCN. A couple weeks ago, I was leaving a trade show, and one of the loan officers kind of cried. It was weird. She's like, "Oh, you're going to be gone." I'm like, "I'm not going to be gone. I'm just not going to be around." Like, it's I won't be here every day anymore, but I'll be here if that makes any sense. So, but with that, right, we had this big issue of, this weekly podcast that I host, and I love you guys, but I just don't want to do it anymore. It's just not my thing going forward, because a lot of you reach out to me, and you reach out with questions, you reach out with loan requests, and that's not where I want to be spending my time as I go forward with the next phase and season of my evolution as an entrepreneur and my evolution as an investor. I talk a lot about the Rich Dad, Poor Dad cash flow quadrant, and actually at a conference last week, I was discussing that, so often we see the EBSI and we think we have to move from entrepreneur to self-employed, and then from self-employed to business owner, and then to investor. And as I stand here today, I occupy all four quadrants. In some businesses, I'm in all four quadrants for that business. In some businesses, I'm only in one quadrant. There are businesses I'm an investor in that I have no business say, no active involvement. I just simply, I hope they do a good job, and I hope I get a return. There's some businesses that I'm the business owner and I get decisions, but I don't run the company. There's some businesses, like the ones my wife is texting me about today, that revolve around my decisions and my actions. And so in those, I'm self-employed. But here at RCN, I have been an employee, but also a part of the business ownership group. And now it's time to give up part of the quadrant, but retain the other part of the quadrant. So in that, I told the marketing team we need to continue this. I think we add a lot of value to the audience, but I don't want it to be a continuation. And like, for me, everything can always get better, like, period, end of story. If you've ever worked with me, I'm sorry, right? Like, I piss people off, because at the end of the day, I don't celebrate for too long. I believe in this concept called baseball for real estate, right? Like, as soon as you have a success, yay, pop the champagne, go watch the tapes, right? What did you do that you could have done better? What did you do that you could have done better? How do we get more downloads? How do we get more reviews? How do we get more shares? How do we engage the audience? How do we get more feedback? Do we do, So for me, the next iteration of Uncontested Investing, I did not want it to be a continuation. I want it to be better. Like, I would love nothing more than a year from now to get emails from you folks saying, "My God, Tim, thank God you left," right? Like, this show is so much better without you. Like, that's, just so you guys know out there, the business owner, that's leadership. When your company is better when you're not around, that's leadership. When the company or the functions in the company take your involvement to be good, you suck as a leader. Anyway, with that said, I have a gentleman here that's like biting his tongue, waiting to speak. Nate Zielinski, say hello.
Hi there. How are you doing, everybody?
Nate has been selected to take the reins of Uncontested Investing, and I'd say shepherd it into the next iteration.
Yeah, no, I'm extremely excited, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here. I think we need a cheers to kick this episode off the right way.
Yeah, and if you're not watching the YouTube video, we've got our smoked old fashions, and we're going to go have a steak dinner after this.
Yeah, no, that's, hey, Dallas through and through. I like when I come down to Texas, getting the full experience. So that all sounds great to me. Like I said, I'm honored to be here. You've laid the groundwork for, a great podcast. And I think you hit on some great points, right? Like, we just want to figure out a way where we can kind of take this to the next level, appreciate the work that you've done for us. And then, hopefully in that year, we're sitting down, having an old fashioned, talking about how much better the podcast got.
Yeah, and you can fly me up to New York when you're going to be recording it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm sure everyone's told you how much I love New York, right?
Yep. Well,
so we can fly Tim and his wife up. I can be a regular guest, not the host.
Yes.
That's
you
your
kick
job.
Your feet up.
Yeah, I kick my feet up.
Marketing team, take notes right now. Tim is penciled in as a guest when we get up and rolling up in the Big Apple.
Have you ever seen the show Elf?
The movie or
the movie?
Yes.
I'm like the guy that I need a S-Class Mercedes at 71 degrees to pick me up at the airport. Now, I'm just kidding. I take the subway.
No South Pole elves around here.
No. So your role at RCN right now is you are a senior partnerships coordinator?
Yes, that's correct.
Business development.
Yep.
Outside sales, and you do a great job speaking. I've seen a lot of your audio and video. Why don't you just take a minute? I'm almost like I'm interviewing you now. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Take a minute and just tell everyone a little bit about your background, how long you've been with RCN, what you do primarily, and maybe some things you're excited about trying out next year on the show.
Yeah, so I think a great place to start is how I started RCN Capital. Thanks to COVID, I actually got laid off from a company that rents out space in the same building, Ticket Network. We sold tickets on the secondary market. Obviously, with the pandemic, those flew out the window pretty much overnight, right? As I was
What you mean is the tickets were no longer flying out the window.
Yes, exactly, right?
There's no one to go to the tickets.
Yep. It ceased to exist pretty much, and to everybody's shock, we picked our jaws up off the floor, and eventually I did get laid off. But before I did, my manager at the time, by the grace of where we are today, he said, why don't you apply for this job at RCN Capital? They have an opening for business development. You should give it a shot. Now, lo and behold, a couple rounds of interviews, got the job as a business development coordinator, a junior business development coordinator, just to see how far I've come now to the title of senior partnerships coordinator. But yeah, my day-to-day, I wear a lot of hats, right? So it's traveling on the road, talking to people in front of audiences or on the trade show floor, which I love to do. There's nothing like seeing people's eyes light up in a crowd or on the floor when you introduce them to a new source of business, let them know how truly easy it is to work with RCN Capital and with somebody that works for the company. So that gives me a lot of gratitude, right? The boots on the ground aspect of, being able to help people change their lives in a way, giving them a new source of business and some more income. I'll also write articles monthly to kind of educate people out there, both brokers and investors in that regard. We do a bunch of LinkedIn posts with the marketing team, and that's kind of all led itself into where we are now, right? I've always had a passion for broadcasting. I went to school for journalism and communications, and I thought for a while there that I had failed, right? Because I didn't get my dream job. Me, 23, I know everything, right? I didn't get my dream job right out of college, so I thought that I had failed. But, the life takes you on many different directions, many different journeys. And here I am today sitting, about to have the reins to a new podcast. So I'm extremely excited, and RCN Capital has been a blessing for sure.
Well, not only do you get to take the reins to, I don't know, the best real estate podcast ever, but you get to record in New York City.
Yep.
I mean, that's cool in itself.
Yes, I'm excited about that. I think that's, as we talked off air, just, to attract some guests, have some fun days in the Big Apple, being able to, wine and dine some guests. That is some of the fun parts that we get to do, right? I think everybody that's in this business is extremely savvy, business oriented. They think about the bottom line, but they also like to have fun, have those connections when the bright lights are off or when we're not, at our desk getting deals done. So I'm looking forward to both aspects of that, right? Having some really great conversations with some people that can really educate our listener base, and then being able to experience some of the Big Apple too. I think it's setting itself up for an exciting chapter.
Man, that's awesome. Maybe I'll stick around if I get a free flight to Jeff. Hey, free flight for me to New York now. All right, so what are some things about maybe this opportunity or show that made you think, I don't even know how it worked. Like, did they email you and say you have it, or they ask a couple people? How did you find out that there was even an opportunity, and how did you
Yeah. So there was whispers. You're obviously, very well respected within the company. There was whispers that you were leaving, first of all. So that's kind of how, the whole thing started. I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of a big loss. Now that you've explained it and I see that you're still staying on to the company, that's huge for us. And you're just kind of taking a step back, which, again, well-deserved. So Mackenzie, who you know very well, and Erica, my boss, emailed me. I had to check the date that it wasn't April 1st. And I wasn't being pranked. They were like, we thought of you for the podcast. And I was like, honestly, I was like, I got to keep a poker face, right? I don't want to come off too excited. But stuff like this, being in a studio, talking with people face to face, making those connections, and having just like a face to face conversation convey to an audience that you never even get to meet sometimes, and having that conversation impact them in a positive way is something that really excites me in the podcast forum. So yeah, they've said, we thought of you first. And I was like, please don't ask anybody else. I'll take it. You know what I mean? So I could have brushed up on some bargaining tactics, but no, I was really happy that they thought of me. Again, I work really hard at this stuff. It's a passion of mine. So when that gets recognized, obviously it's really cool, right? When something that you work hard at, something that you love to do, people realize that and want to use your skills. It's something to get excited about.
Well, to get back on theme, actually, wait. You know what? We're not taking breaks today. We're just going to keep talking.
Let's do it.
To keep on theme of making investors more money on every episode.
Yeah.
You go around the nation, I'd say primarily to broker and correspondent lender type shows, but you do some direct customer stuff too. What are you seeing out there, Nate? Like, how are people adjusting to the market, and how are they? I don't want to talk about our products. Blah. Nobody wants to talk about lending. But if you need lending, call RCN Capital. But like, how are investors and brokers, and how are people adjusting to today's market? What are you hearing on the street?
I think the biggest takeaway that I've seen in the last year is just that the time to act is always now in real estate. I was very naive coming into the industry, and I think when rates went way up, we were blessed, right, with the low threes and what have you. I think people got it in their mind that this is how it's always going to be. Nice. And that investing in real estate is something that's easy. And that's just very far from the truth, right? It's a great source of income. It's a great profession to be involved in. You can make great connections. Obviously, the money is always there and part of the equation. But, what really matters is putting in the work, putting in the time, putting in the effort. So a lot of what my past year has been is just kind of walking people away from that ledge, saying, you can still be successful in this current marketplace, right? It's going to take a little bit more work. Not everything's going to be handed to you on a silver platter like it seemed like it was in 2021. But, just letting them know there's alternate sources of business out there. And again, we don't want to talk too much about RCN Capital, but I think we do an excellent job of giving brokers resources to succeed. So letting them know that there's lenders out there that are on their side that will work with them, get away from that lone wolf approach, especially for investors, right? If times are tough right now, it's harder to close loans. Maybe working with other partners, getting a couple loans under your belt with a partnership to secure that business instead of, hey, me and you are both going for this property. Why don't we work together and both get it, both reap the rewards? And then when it's a more stable layout or landscape, if you will, we can go our separate ways. But for right now, why don't we partner up? And I think we take that same attitude with brokers, right? As a lender, let's partner up. Let's help you succeed because it benefits both parties, right? We can equip you with things on a day-to-day basis that can, set you apart from your competition. You bring that business back to us. It's kind of it's a two-way street. I think investors can take that same mindset too.
Yeah, in 08-ish, were you in high school or?
Yeah,
I
was 15. I was born in 1993.
All right. Oh, okay.
So I turned 30 this year. I'm officially old.
So I was in high school when you were born. We'll establish that. But in 08, it was crazy. Because everything changed, right? And there was this one book they gave us at a convention. It was Who Moved My Cheese? And it was like, basically picture a mouse in the maze and the cheese is always in the same spot. Like, that's what we get to when times are easy, right? It's just really easy. Go get your cheese, go back. Go get your cheese, go back. Well, in 08, there was no cheese. Right? They didn't just move it. Like, it was just like, nope, we're taking it. But the whole book, the idea was like, when things change, you must change, or you just die of starvation. Yep. And it's kind of what you were just talking about, right? Like, you got to partner up. You got to add additional revenue sources, right? Like, pay your bills, move on.
Yeah.
Better times are ahead.
I think you could attest to this too. The best investors out there are ones that are able to adapt, right? Nobody has done things since whatever case you want to take, the 1990s, 2009, after the crash, whenever the market kind of came back. Nobody has done the same thing their whole career, right? They've gone into different ventures rather. They've tried different loan programs, multifamily, commercial, being able to weave in and out of those different elements of real estate investing, I think is really important. And again, people think that it's just very narrow. Get the house, rent it out. Get a house, put some renovation in, sell it, right? There's so many different layers to real estate investing that I think people need to understand, definitely educate themselves on before they jump into it, right? You don't want to do it just because we're on a podcast saying you should do it. You definitely want to do your due diligence, but there are so many different layers to this and so many different ways to succeed. You're really short-sighting yourself if you only choose one.
I completely agree. And folks, now I'm actually going to do something that he's not even expecting. It is actually a perfect time right now for me to just officially hand over the hosting responsibilities. So I've done the first half of this show. Nate, I'm going to hand it off to you, and you can take us home.
Okay.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-vest.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
All right, folks, we're back in our official RCN Capital.
You're in
polos.
uniform?
Yep. The move has been made official during the break here. So I am your host, Nate Zielinski of Uncontested Investing, and I'm alongside Tim Herriage, our longtime previous host and good friend, former host and good friend at RCN Capital, Tim Herriage. So, Tim, now that I'm asking the questions here,
I'm leaving.
Yeah, get the lights directly on his forehead. So we've talked a lot about, the different hats, different ways to succeed. For you personally, what's your favorite part about this industry? What gets you up in the morning and, is first on your to-do list, or the thing that you're most excited to do when it comes to the investment space in general?
Well, I mean, Nate, about me, what gets me up is my family. I mean, I love being home, and I get my kid up, and I'm making breakfast, and I take him to school, and I play with the dogs, and I bring my wife a Diet Coke, and oftentimes give her breakfast in bed. And I just love that stuff. Like, I love that I have that flexibility, and I've missed it being on the road a little bit, but that gets me up. And then it's a little bit of a cheat code, because then everyone's gone and quiet, and I get about an hour and a half, 2 hours, like, alone in the house. And I just dream. I'm a builder. I'm a creator. I tell people all the time, and I'll do this probably most definitely when you continue on. I love when these shows come out every Tuesday morning, and I always rewatch the entire thing. And I promise you'll do this too. Mm-hmm. And don't watch the rough version. Let Mackenzie and the team do that. It's amazing how many things the guests say that I don't hear the first time, right? Because now you're in that chair. You got to worry about the time and the editing, and did we touch this and touch that, and did this, like, you're listening, but you can't really absorb it. Yeah. So I've just that's one of my favorite things of the week. Every Tuesday, the thing comes out. I sit in my recliner. I put it on the YouTube, on the TV, and I listen. And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember him saying that. Like, that's such good stuff. And then what I like to do is I'll go write a little blog post or a Facebook post like, hey, today's episode was Nate, and oh my gosh, he said this and said that. And I could never do that from memory, right? Like, I mean, so that's kind of what gets me up and going. But I'm a deal guy, right? And a lot of personality profiles, we call it a maverick or a red or a type A. I like to create things. I don't like to manage things. So with real estate, structuring the deal, getting the deal started is what I love. I don't really like finishing them. I think it's boring after that. Like, we've already landed the deal. Let's go find another one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so two things that were really important there that I heard you say, right? Flexibility, which I think is important for investors out there, people on the fence about, is this career right for me? Should I do it? What are some of the benefits? The flexibility is a huge part of it. The most important part of what you said, though, was your family and the why. And I think a lot of people can get caught up in this business is all about the money, the dollar, the bottom line, rather. And that is extremely important. Obviously, there's bills to pay, there's mouths to feed once you do have that family. How important is it for investors to separate themselves from just chasing the money and actually having that why? Do you think people need to hear that message, or do you not mind when people are just like money, money, money?
Look, man, I love money. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I love money. I love real estate investing because it has made me a very wealthy man. I ain't gonna lie. But that flexibility, my 14-year-old son is so happy I'm not going to travel anymore. Like, he's missed me because the first, half of his life or so, I didn't travel. I'm just a real estate guy in Dallas. Well, it'd be to our time. But anyway, the point is, most of his life I haven't traveled. And like, he likes having me around the house in the morning. He likes having me around in the afternoon. He likes to be able to run to mama when I'm being mean to him, or run to me when mama's being, mama. And so there's that. The flexibility is huge. I think, though, on my personal website, the header has said this for 10 years now. It says, remember, the business is the vehicle, not the dream. Because so often we get into this business or these entrepreneurial kind of things, and the thing becomes the thing, right? Instead of the way we accomplish the thing. So I'm always reminding people, like, I can't remember which camera to look at. I'm used to looking at that one, man. Damn it. All right. I can't remember which, no, but like, that's why I'm
Go to the wide shot. Go to the wide shot.
Yeah, you're confusing me, man. It's so weird from this side of the stage. But no, like, the business is the vehicle, not the dream. And I came into RCN Capital in 2021 very, very focused on a set of deliverables and accomplishments. And that's what's made this transition so easy. Jeff and I, we were at 100% alignment that I was not going to move to Connecticut. I wasn't going to come to Charlotte. I mean, like, I wasn't opening an office in Dallas. Like, it was, no, I'm here to help for this phase and this thing. And we were able to navigate. Nobody knew in 2021 rates would do what they did. Nobody knew in 2021 values would do what they did. And I feel like I was part of helping the company navigate. And, I think I originally told him I'd do 5 years, but I'm one of those people, man, I can't do anything halfway. Like, it's either 100, Kent Clothier says how you do anything is how you do everything. Mm-hmm. And that's just me. And so it kind of came down to where I was like, Jeff, I've kind of become this traveling salesman, and I don't know how to do my job without doing that. But I don't want to do it anymore. I mean, I got to be here with my family because, back to your question, that's what's the most important. He's like, Tim, I know that. You told me that whenever we started. Like, he was like that was when I was with Blackstone. They didn't give a damn, right? Like, it was like, no, man, we need you in L.A. tomorrow, and then Salt Lake City the next day, and then back in New York, and then over in Florida, and you can talk to your family next year. It's like, but Jeff and I were family people, and we understood that. And so when I told him kind of the situation, we've been in complete agreement. Like, it's not very often someone, quote unquote, leaves a company that everyone's in complete agreement. And that's just a testament not only to the team environment, but also the fact that we were in alignment, that my family came first.
I think we can agree on, shout out to Jeff Tesh for sure, right? What a great leader he is. And you hit it right on the head with
Karen Tesh.
Yeah. Yep, she's part of it too. Yep. That family atmosphere, though, since day one, since I started at RCN Capital, has not disappeared by any means. We've talked about, navigating your career, going through different steps, journeys, learning new things. what would you say is going to be your biggest takeaway from your time at RCN Capital that you can take into the next venture that you step into?
You know, it's a lesson in probably culture. It's a lesson in focus. It's honestly a lesson in collaborative behavior. When I joined the company 2 years ago, I had a very set belief in what we would and could do. The market always has the final say in that. But through that, and I'll pat myself on the back a little bit, being a patient leader and knowing that, for instance, your boss, Erica LaCentra, the chief marketing officer, right? She's been at the company 10 years or so. She's the only marketing person the company's ever had, and it's the only job she's ever had. Like, this is her baby, right? And when you come into a situation like that, you must respect, not only appreciate. Like, too many people say, oh, I appreciate what you've done, but they don't respect what you've done. You must respect what someone's done. And I don't mean to say this about Eric. Actually, and all the other C-level folks, you must respect what they've done, appreciate the effort they've put in, and find a collaborative way to challenge the status quo. And it's difficult. And honestly, my time in the Marine Corps is the only thing that prepared me for that. Because I did not know there's some entrenched personalities at RCN Capital. There's an entrenched personality anywhere someone's been that they've been sweating and bleeding to create something, right? You come into my investment company, like, there's going to be some attitudes, right? Like, I mean, it just is what it is. So I think my experiences in the Corps really prepared me to respect and appreciate who they were, what they had done, hear them out, and learn how to ask questions the right way. Sometimes the questions were, hey, Nate, I noticed that your old fashioned's empty. Have you ever thought of refilling it? And you're like, yeah, I tried, but I realized after the second one I get rosy cheeks or whatever, right? Like,
true, that is true.
But too often new people are like, why do you need to refill that? And it's like, man, I try. You know, it's like, respect. Ask them first what they've done in the past versus insinuate you know better.
Yeah.
You may find out they've already tried what you're recommending and it didn't work, and then you can find out why it didn't work and then see if you can solve for that, right? So often I found it wasn't my idea that was wrong. There was something in the way that nobody else had been able to clear that maybe I could clear because I was the new guy, right? I could ask for something that someone else couldn't ask for. So I think it was that collaborative approach of respect and appreciation.
That's awesome. And I think a lot of people can learn from that answer. Someone like you that's risen to your stature, right? You've closed countless deals. I don't even want to start to guess the number, right? You could have easily walked into that situation and, you know, like you're the new sheriff in town, right? And, you know, I've got it all figured out. I've been doing this for decades, right? You're never too old to learn a new way to do things, learn how to work with people, work for people. So I think that's a huge lesson that people can really take from that answer right there of, you know, never let your ego or pride or past experiences or successes get in the way of something new and something that you can build on. That's huge. I think the only right way to wrap this up would be to put you on the spot. It's your turn to do the minute to win it. Your advice for me as a brand new host of this podcast, 60 seconds, anybody out there starting a new venture, whether it is in the podcast format, taking the leap into, you know, being an entrepreneur or an investor. I got to say, I like the way this blue polo matches my eyes on camera.
Looks good.
But anyway,
looks good, Nick.
I know, right? I could get used to this up here. This is fun. This has been a fun 45 minutes. But anyways, the floor is yours. Tim Herriage to sign us off with his minute to win it for, you know, new podcast hosts, new entrepreneurs, whatever the case may be.
You know, I was in a meeting earlier today talking about some new ventures I'm getting into. And I think the key is that you be true to your vision. And all too often, we let the profit and loss statement, the balance sheet, the market, the personalities, the problems get in the way of our vision. And I think I go back to Simon Sinek's golden circle, right? The why's at the middle. And if you stay focused on why you're doing what you're doing, whether it's volunteering to host a podcast, whether it's starting a company, whether it's leaving a company, it doesn't matter. Stay focused on why you did it. Stay focused and committed to your vision, because your vision is what's special. Once you start negotiating time or value or price, you become commoditized and it's no longer special. So my advice is to stick with the vision and the reason, and just remember the business is the vehicle, not the dream.
Tim, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. No matter what you do in your next venture, please don't stop dropping those nuggets of knowledge. That was great. I'm more than happy to take on, this baton and take the uncontested investing into a new era. Thank you for this episode, and you might be getting some emails from me for some advice, because you've got it figured out. You did a great job with this, and this was really fun. Thank you.
All expense paid trip to New York once a year to kind of check in with everybody. That's all I'm saying. Jeff, come on, sign the check.
The Tim Herriage check-in episode. I think it has a nice ring to it.
Oh, man.
Well, thank you, folks. That's us signing off, right? Your network is your net worth. With Uncontested Investing, I promise I'll come up with a new slogan. That's yours. That's gold. But thank you, everybody out there listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and be on the lookout for new and exciting things to come with Uncontested Investing.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com, and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook, and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.